This is Dr. Justina Agnieszka Chevalier. Next video, this one, is about establishment of who is at fault. There's always from two, when we are assisting in pursuit of that relationship, to have persons be real about their life and stop living a fiction and get sick and medicated or killed because of that. Or when that person, if you are that person, wants to do such, and the other persons as well, we seek for fault, and that fault, it is to establish who is the person who in the past or currently, and now listen to me very carefully, if it's a man being capable and able, knowing that he has a chance, did not pursue or has not pursued a woman who he lives and fantasizes about as impeding work or other relationships in sexual envisioning and love, a serious one like described in the drugless expansion of mind, who is also, so that person in a non-pursuit and in rejection or lies about it, when that woman would approach to present it as a lie and as a non-dignified, is at fault. So that's clear fault of a person. So what we don't do to anything more to humiliate that female. Okay, we actually try to encourage those men later on, because for every man, for every woman, there are many of such individuals, and we try to encourage that man to pursue that woman with explanations or with some sort of assurance that that man is interested. In my next exercise, I'll describe how to solve it also in practice when those persons collaborate. Presenting that female as alpha female, or the one that always takes initiative, and that man as presenting as a so far impossible for sexual arousal in orgasm, and considering him as serious father for children, because many times these women were in life difficulties or in situations in which that man could have assisted and did not do it in fear of public display of emotions or such accusations. Having such mind content as described in that video about the drugless mind expansion, or that man pursued that female and pursued that female to downgrade her to someone else in hopes of being upgraded by it as more attractive, offending her, or pursued that female to hurt or kill in some instances, or pursued other females as such, or pursued that woman to actually, for instance, assuming that she loves someone else, using it as argument, or some others, no matter what she would do in assuring that it is not the case, based on own mind, and intends to have sex with him, he would continue each time and desire would appear to reject, humiliate her, or present it as a favor. Or kill and torture, or cause pain to her, which she then secondarily learned to use as sole source of sexuality. And that person, that man, is at fault then, and the woman often is framed into role of a prostitute, a victim, or mentally ill person to disguise it, or a person suffering from old or other circumstances, while they too love one another in mind and fantasize about one another, and he simply is torturing her and trying to present it as non-existent in real life, to generate pursuit of him and humiliate. The common maneuvers to do so is expectation of reducing of that female to a child with nicknames pertinent to a child, reduction of that person's, that adult female, role in society, to impede sexual pursuit to only a professional, so using titles in the context of life, or in aggression, demeaning verbal or physical abuse, punishing that woman as disgraceful in accusation of her not being serious in sexuality and love for him when she's trying to seduce him to have children. And so those are the three most common circumstances in which that man is at fault and that woman is then in possession of a pain index. In and now, pain index, that's what I called it. It's possible and to divide it into possible to resolve and impossible to resolve, in which the relationship assumes the role of asexual and repairing of tangible and non-tangible damage depending on past interaction is pursued to become strangers, work partners, or to become friends, or become neighbors, or such. So pursuit of repairing in a tangible, non-tangible way. Sometimes it takes liberation of that female, so breaking her out of a marriage. That's a topic that I will address later on. In role reversal, if that is possible, it is possible to pursue then that man as a woman and make it possible when the pain index is known to very low in harm or wishing to die for that man of that man, for a woman to die, so that man actually cares and loves that woman, and it is lack of self-confidence in faith that he is desired and loved. And so a woman that he always in a way provides for or pursues and doubts about is then presented in situation in which he is being dominating prior in the role of vulnerable, and the sexual activity is pursued as reparative. So the desire to pursue that man is when there is an obstacle, so another accusation of another person in the past, or search for such obstacles as an excuse in disgust, because that person fantasizes or there's someone else for him, which requires that female in corroboration, in love and desire evaluation for that man's reciprocity, so that he does not use her as an excuse. And in second, it can be also a man or children. And in second instance also, there is a corroboration as to how many times a person is supposed to apologize for non-faulty maturation-like relationship or relationships of persons, when that man forces these relationships, not pursuing sexual relationship, shaming for such pursuit, when these are actually not a comparative in seriousness, never were and cannot be, because that woman loves and desires that man wants to have his children or has such. And so that dynamic then is reversed, in which the person who always is dominating is first provided that list of likes and dislikes to that person in a neutral way to establish assertiveness, in which that person actually derives then pleasure from that provision of goods, always being a provider, from sensual appreciation of own, and she learns to actually not be a non-stop a maiden that is provided for, but perform what is called restoration of perception of self and autonomy, to be able to love her back. And second exercise, it is to pursue that man in vulnerable state, to pursue tenderness in ascension of desire, then when it stops in no fear, because that man is placed in a place that is in impediment to hurt her or reject her or abuse her, because she's pursuing, when she does not feel desire for him anymore, she does not pursue touch, pleasing, or stripping of for him, but it is discussed as jealousy or envy about or for someone else, and it is discussed also and resolved as such in searching of in one hurt and in the other one ingenuous sorrow because of a loss of time and love for that person. And in second instance, it is resolved as a realization of being self able to create in that person impressions of desire and love, as opposed to that person seeking non-stop approval from flattery and from presence of desire for him, and non-stop inquiring, did you have orgasm, are you having pleasure, am I doing it right, and anger if such is not the case, because persons are removed from contraception and from any impediments, health impediments to have children. That's one thing. If mature aligned for such to happen also in physical contact, there's always such possibility. If there are organs, those organs sometimes can be regenerated and retransplanted or inherited. And also, when that does not happen, the person realizes that person is source of sexual arousal self from touch and contact with the other person, and the other one realizes that one has such power, and that presence of arousal from seeing the other person in such state is actually attractive to the other person. And so that is done as remediate sexuality, and man and female are casted in same role, so that realization of mind and body when persons separated leave sexual relationship touching self objects or casting others in degree of similarity to later on realize lack of satisfaction or missing that other person's sense of emptiness. And it is done, I planned it in 2 or 3 meetings, pre-organized and prior to evaluation of potential to harm or kill based on that past harm described, so faultful past. And whoever is at fault is the person who is then burdened with a pursuit of repairing. That in sexual dynamic, when there is no pain index that makes that relationship incompatible with sexuality anymore, because it was never compatible with such being immature, or incompatible with such because harm was done such that it is impossible to recover, and from mind or in body, and or mind and body being continuum to physical world and real life relationships, at least one person appeared for which that person does not have any harm or anything against, because that person did nothing wrong, and it is reciprocal, so that person has higher chance of forming relationship, posing in mind now new obstacle that is non-possible to overcome. And that new person that needs to be realized should not be harassed, demeaned, or degraded to, so that that relationship, the old one, can be pursued, because it's a fiction. Even if we kill all of new persons, and that person one being loved more than that person who did harm in the past, that still marks that as the other person as cunning or explicit, harmful, not trusted with children person, and makes for that relationship not possible and asexual, and only pursuit of recuperation of in repairing the tangible and non-tangible losses as a pursuit of that relationship, and circumstantial, conditional to often appearance of harm. So person visualize harm or pain as source of sexuality as only source, based on that past pain index, which is to be remediated instead with pursuit of a sexual relationship, and repentance, regret first in self, repairment of tangible, non-tangible losses, and pursuit of reciprocity of such, and then a change of status of that relationship to a sexual functioning. When that is possible, if that is not possible, then granting of non-forgiveness and pursuit of dignity in person, that I planned also as part of Charlie's in a Satori's program, which consists of realization of adulthood as a source of independence and emancipation in own ideas, and in pursuit of work, pursuit of realization of own talents, and that will be also discussed in this series of videos and in my book.